Absolutely. That is the perfect disposition for church. So I will say this to you, just kind of also one little quick announcement real quick. My youngest sister, their first child is being baptized today at Trinity Klein. So I will shake hands, but I may not be as let's hang out and talk. So I'm going to shake hands, and then we're going to bolt to the other side of town, just so you know. I thought it was best that we be here in person, okay? I know you're super cool and chill about that, and we could have done a video thing, but I really value being here with you. It's very, very important to me and to our family. So what we're going to do is get through the service, shake hands, but I just may not be able to hang back with you. So if you know why, now you know why. All right, I meant to mention that earlier. All that to say, Matthew 8 and Matthew 9. If I were to summarize these two chapters, faith. This is going to hammer home faith. And there's one overarching point that we're going to make, like we did last week, but there's a lot of little teachings that are in the middle of it, okay? Part of this is about your faith. What do you believe? The things that you ask God to do in your life in faith and by faith. A lot of times we love to ask God of difficult things. We love to ask God of miraculous things. We love to ask God about generational impacting things for our family or our children or our grandchildren. We just don't usually like the way he answers them. Like, you want your kid to have character? You pray for your kid to have character? Get ready to watch your kid walk through the desert for like years. You want him to be strong? Watch him come this close to being broken. I wish that your prayers could be answered, and certainly my prayers could be answered from just like high fives and awesome stuff, right? Like, God, please make me awesome, right? Or God, please make me strong. And then all of that just happens through blessings, right? The next day you win the lottery, somebody hands you a new car, somebody next door gives you the title of their home or whatever, but it's just not how it works. Instead, you're going to be stripped of everything. You're going to go through the hardest of difficult times. He's going to answer your prayer. Sometimes he doesn't. But many times he does. The struggle is how he's going to do it. So just be mindful of that. If you just take a step back right now, especially if you're a family in here, or you have kids or grandkids, and think about the longings of your heart, think about the things that you've asked God in faith to do. And you may discover that actually he is answering your prayer. It's just the strategy of doing it and the way of getting it done may not be how we would have drawn it up in the sand. And so in 8 and 9, Jesus has a lot of disciples, and they're young dudes, young guys. And I think they all want to be awesome. The problem is there has to be a pace. There's only a few ways that you get young guys' attention. And part of it is you have to run them through the ringer and get them so convinced that their own strength is not enough. So the disciples on 8 and 9, they're going through almost kind of these evolutions, so to speak, of like one series after another that's super intense and super difficult. And they are slowly having the training wheels being taken off. Initially, what they're getting to experience is just the awesome power of God. And then eventually, he's going to send them out 2 by 2 kind of thing and go, listen, it's all good. You're going to get nothing but wins, but you're going to experience me and my power without me literally standing there. And then the night when he's betrayed, they're still thinking it's going to be nothing but mountaintop experiences and high fives. And that's when he's like, no, you need to go get a sword. What? We never talked about a sword. That's when he's making these kind of almost cryptic statements. Like, you don't understand. I've protected you the whole time. And now it's about to get real. The world that hates me, it's about to really hate you. And you're going to feel it, really feel it for the first time ever. And they act accordingly. So they are in the middle of like training, whether they realize it or not. And he's slowly bringing them along. And there's a ton of things that are going to happen. You have your Bible open or your phone open. You can follow along. There's a few things that I want to draw your attention to, especially here initially. I'm going to bring you to Matthew 8, 5 to 13. It'll be up on the screen, and then we'll skim through a few things and then highlight a few things and bring you through these 2 chapters. Here it is. When Jesus had entered Capernaum, A centurion came to him asking for help. "Lord," he said, "my servant lies at home paralyzed, suffering terribly." Jesus said to him, "Shall I come and heal him?" The centurion replied, "Lord, I do not deserve to have you come under my roof, but just say the word and my servant will be healed. For I myself am a man under authority, with soldiers under me. I tell this one, 'Go,' and he goes. I tell that one, 'Come,' and he comes. I say to my servant, 'Do this,' and he does it." When Jesus heard this, he was amazed and said to those following him, "Truly I tell you, I have not found anyone in Israel with such great faith. I say to you that many will come from the east and the west and will take their places at the feast with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the subjects of the kingdom will be thrown outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." Then Jesus said to the centurion, "Go, let it be done just as you believed it would." And his servant was healed at that moment. Okay, so hit pause. We're going to highlight today, there's two people in the Gospels that Jesus says they have great faith. In effect, marvels at their faith. Two. This is one of the two. And it's easy for us to read the pages and be like, "Oh, okay, that's great. That's what Jesus does. That's awesome." What I want to enter into the discussion is for you to understand the beautiful wrecking ball of this moment, okay? Because this is someone who's in high command of the police state that's controlling the culture and the people that are represented as the disciples. Rome controls every aspect of your life. Jesus, in the greatest message ever given, Matthew 5, 6, and 7, we looked at that last week. There's an odd line, I think it's in Matthew 5:41, I want to say. And in this line, he says, if someone goes with you, or you go with someone, go the extra mile kind of thing. It's kind of a turn of phrase. What he's talking about is that Roman soldiers sometimes would look at the civilians and go, "Hey, I need you to pick that up. You're not going to say no. You don't have a choice. They own you. They own every aspect of you." And that's where Jesus says, if they say go a mile, go two. That's what he's talking about. So one of the things that's odd here is he has the disciples watching this, and somebody who represents the power that's oppressing them asks for something from Jesus, stepping over every boundary culturally, politically, socially you can imagine. And not only does Jesus grant the answer to the prayer, Jesus is like, look how amazing his faith is. If you can put yourself in the position of the disciples, that's a super tough pill to swallow. Have you ever smiled before and you didn't mean it at all? I think that's kind of how it was. They're like, "Oh yeah, that's great. Wonderful. Yay. Good. We hate them." I think that's where it was at. So Jesus marvels. Now, as things move on, here you can look at 14 and 15. It's just a side note. It's not the point. The very next thing Jesus does that Matthew recounts is he heals Peter's mother-in-law. What does that mean? It means he's married. You never caught that detail? Don't ask me why you can't be a priest in the Catholic Church and be married, because the first guy apparently married. But Jesus healed his mother-in-law. That's the next thing that happened. Now look at 18 and 22. Pretty cool, right? You have one person who says, "Jesus, I'll follow you wherever you want to go." Wherever you want to go. Another one says, "No, I need to bury my father." So right on the heels of this amazing stuff, Jesus has one person who doesn't weigh out at all. What is it going to take to follow Jesus? He's not thinking of the cost. The very next one is overthinking the cost. He's saying, I have to get all of my affairs in order. I've got to get everything worked out. When he says, I got to go bury my father, that could be 30 years from now in their culture. It doesn't mean someone's necessarily on their deathbed, could be. But the whole point is the very next thing that then happens in this one little section are these two ends of the spectrum. One who hasn't considered the cost of following Jesus at all, is maybe a little too confident in themselves, and the other one that is paralyzed with having all of their affairs together. right? It's kind of like that saying, like, if you're concerned with making sure you can first afford children, you'll never have any. You want to make sure it's all the boxes are checked? Not going to work. So this is what's happening there in that section. As things move on, now we find Jesus in a storm. He's asleep. And there you can see it up on the screen in verses 25 and 26. In the middle of this storm, all of a sudden the disciples, they went and woke up saying to him, "Lord, save us. We're going to drown." He replied, "You have little faith. Why are you so afraid?" Then he got up and rebuked the wind and the waves, and it was completely calm, and the disciples are baffled. I haven't thought much, but this week was the first time that it really hit me on this topic. I think the disciples, after watching Jesus heal and do miracles, I think they almost had the mindset of like, can he stop the wind and the waves asleep? Do we have to wake him up first? Can he do this and just be knocked out at the bottom of the boat? Like, we haven't seen him do the sleeping miracle. He's always awake when he does the miracles. Do we need to wake him up? Like, does he have to be conscious? You know, does God fall asleep on you? And so then they're running into this moment, and Jesus is like, man, what's with you guys? You haven't seen enough? And they're baffled. They're missing it, see? They're in the middle of processing that God has no limits, no powers. Somewhere in here they did the math that there's a limitation. Is it because it's weather? Is it because he's asleep? And he's helping them know, like, no such issue. Then we move on to 28 and following. 2 demon-possessed men. This is an interesting insight because the demon-possessed dynamic, it shows up twice in these 2 chapters. And here's what it says up, you can see it up on the screen in verses 29 and 31. You see what the demons actually say to Jesus. It says, "What do you want with us, Son of God? Have you come here to torture us before the appointed time?" You know, it's not like Hollywood. There's no epic struggle. They just want to know, are you here to destroy us today? Is this the appointed time? Is this the end right now? Is it over, right? And then in verse 31, he says, the demons begged Jesus, "If you drive us out, send us into this herd of pigs." There was a herd of pigs that was right over the hill. And look at Jesus. He says in a word, "Go." Now, I want you to catch something in the demonic realm, okay? Because there's a lot of things that go on in the demonic realm, and what we don't appreciate is how subversive. So how do they deal with Jesus? "Son of God, are you here to destroy us? How about not, okay? Can you just send us over into those pigs?" So what are they doing? They're completely on their heels, like they have no power. They're willing to do whatever. They even come up with the suggestion, "Can we go to those pigs?" That work? The very next thing they do once they're in the pigs is they drive the entire herd of pigs into the water, killing all of them. This is why the whole town, in verse 34 would say, "Then the whole town went out to meet Jesus. And when they saw him, they pleaded with him to leave their region." Why? Just because it was scary? I mean, I'm sure it was wild to watch. Their entire livelihood was destroyed. And I want you to catch this, because this is a truth 2,000 years ago and today. Instead of going, wow, look at the power of God, and look at the profound nature of evil that in 1 minute would torture people literally to the edge of insanity, and then turn around and take over pigs and destroy somebody's livelihood with their last-ditch effort before they leave town. Instead, who are the people upset with? Who are they shaking their fist at? Who always gets a pass in the culture and society as followers of Jesus? Who do we just think, oh, that didn't really happen? Oh, that's not really the influence of evil. You know what? If Jesus was on his A game, everything would be all right. So understand, that's the move. You get that? You're in struggles, you're in hardship, you're in difficulties, there's stress and strain in your marriage, or you're in your health, or some aspect of your world out here. Don't sleep on the reality that there is a spiritual battle for your heart, your mind, and your soul. And all of that is active, okay? All of it. Now, here we go, on to chapter 9. Check it out. Jesus then forgives a man to his dismay. It's a man who's paralyzed. The Pharisees can't stand that somehow the Son of Man would manage to heal someone first. But in healing him, he would talk about how his sins are forgiven. And Jesus then gives the hearer, the understander, those of us in this room, this simple understanding that Jesus is doing miracles first to show people what the kingdom of heaven will be like. The blind will see, the deaf will hear, the lame will walk. All of your ailments and issues and insecurities and problems in the next life are gone. That's one thing. He is showing that. He's also showing power. But what's his mission? He reveals his mission in Matthew 9. What is it? To forgive sins. He does the miraculous to show that when he says that he's God, and his greatest purpose, his primary mission, is to forgive sins. Why? So that that whole thing about the kingdom of heaven with him for all eternity can even happen. So he gives that one little insight. Of course, the Pharisees hate it. And of course, Matthew, the one he would write Matthew, in verse 9 and following, Matthew records the moment when Jesus faces him. It's wild to think that Jesus in 2 words says, "Follow me." And in that moment, Matthew will follow him. He looks at the demons and in 1 word, "Go." And they go. When he comes back, it'll be a word and it's over. Looks at Matthew, "Follow me." And Matthew's life is flipped upside down. Matthew at that moment would have been a betrayer to his people, his culture, his country, his family name. He is despised. The only way you're a tax collector is you had to have come from that community, and you have to know how many goats you have here, how many animals you have over here, how many sheep you have here. He has the inside track. And he was probably, like most tax collectors, skimming off the top to pad his own pockets. Matthew has no real friends. 2 words, life flipped upside down. And Jesus' point is simple. You see it on the screen. It is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. I desire mercy and not sacrifice, for I have not called to call the righteous, but sinners. Then we see in the next section, you can follow it in verses 18 and following, there's a synagogue leader. He realizes, we believe that that's Jairus. He's asking Jesus to heal him, his daughter. Then all of a sudden you see right after that, they can't even get to the destination to heal the daughter. And there's another woman while they're on their way to go heal the daughter. Before they even go heal the daughter, there's another woman who's been bleeding, and she just grabs onto his robe, and she's healed. I mean, everything that's going on, think about the pace. I mean, it's nonstop. If you're a disciple, you're like, they're possessed. We watched some pigs die. Now we're in a storm. We can't get anywhere. It's calm in the storm. Now we get to the other side. We got a lady bleeding. She's healed. She touched his cloak. Like, it's wild. The pace. You see the pace? It's crazy. Nonstop. It's almost before they can process the last thing, there's another thing happening. And they're seeing the miraculous happen constantly. And this is what ends up happening, right? And before they can even get to the other side, when they get to the other side, they get to the synagogue leader's house, and the girl is completely healed at that point. Mind-blowing. Then in verse 27, one of my favorite. Look at verse 27. There's 2 blind men. Jesus heals the 2 blind men. I'm not saying this is in my top 10 to ask Jesus when I die. It's top 50, if I remember. It'll be in the top 50. I doubt I'll have my list, but if I do. He heals the 2 blind men, and then he says, do not tell anyone. Do not tell anyone that I've healed you. They're blind. How do you fake that? I mean, you see my point? Like, okay, don't tell anyone, but everyone knows you are blind. How do you then interact with people still pretending to be blind? How are you supposed to not let people know you're no longer blind? You trip over stuff sometimes, right? Do you, like, Sin of a woman, do you drive a Ferrari around really fast? How do you do that? I think that's hilarious. I don't know if he was kind of in jest, like was he serious? Matthew wrote it down and then he was like, guys, this is never going to happen. And they don't listen. That's the other thing. They immediately tell everyone. It's the most backwards, kind of funny. I don't even know what to do with it, but I think it's hilarious that he told him to do that. When I die one day, I'm going to ask Jesus, what's the deal in that story? All right, keep moving, 32 and following. You have another man who was demon-possessed. He could not talk. He was brought to Jesus. And I want you to notice something in verse 34, and I have it up here on the screen. Do you see the relevance of what Matthew's helping you see? The Pharisees are spiritually blind. The Pharisees have no confession of who Jesus is. Do you realize everything that you've seen, you've heard people say, you can do it. That's what's coming out of their face, coming from their heart. Their confession is, you're God and you can do it. And then the healings is people in some cases who can't see and now they can see. Well, look at what verse 34, look at what Matthew is revealing. The ones who should be able to hear spiritually, the Pharisees who know the law, they're deaf. The ones who should be able to see spiritually, they're blind. The ones who should be able to confess that what they are seeing that has been written for thousands of years before this moment have nothing to say but that he is a prince of demons driven out by demons. Matthew wants us all to understand that. The people that should know around Jesus don't. They're the ones who are still blind. And when Jesus saw the crowds in verse 36, look at this. He had compassion on them because they were harassed and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. Before we go to our final story, I want to remind you, Jesus acts and interacts out of compassion. Jesus saw a group of people that in the Pharisees, they had no spiritual guidance. When he looked in the countryside, he saw people that were demonically possessed or oppressed. And he sees in Matthew recounts, they have no shepherd. No one is guiding these people. They are lost. Can I just remind you before we move on, if you feel like you're one of those people this morning, I want you to know this. If you were taught that your God, Jesus Christ, is not a shepherd that doesn't have a heart for you, then you've learned about a Jesus that's not in the Bible. Yes, Jesus has the highest standard, and Jesus is the only way, the truth, and the life. And Jesus holds people to follow him to a very high standard. But I'm talking to you in this room, if you're the person who feels broken, who feels lost, who feels like you have kind of not being able to find your center, you feel unworthy to even be in this room, this is a profound truth that you must know, that Jesus has a profound heart and empathy and compassion for those who feel like they are not to be a part of the kingdom of heaven, that they don't deserve to even be sitting in these pews. Never forget that. His profound compassion. Now, we started our time. We started our time with one of the two people that Jesus looked at and said, wow, look at their faith. And I just told you that socially and in every other way, this would have annoyed the disciples because the centurion was above them. Well, here's the second person. Here's the other one in Matthew 15. Check it out, because I just wanted to close this loop for you. Very, very cool. Leaving that place, it's up on the screen here. Leaving that place, Jesus withdrew to the region of Tyre and Sidon. A Canaanite woman from the vicinity came to him crying out, Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me. My daughter is demon-possessed and suffering terribly. Canaanite woman. This is a pagan region. They worship pagan gods. Historically, every deplorable thing you can imagine has never been made up by this generation. This is the original. This is the OG of all things depraved. Canaanite people. She is from the line and the lineage and the tribes that would make up Sodom and Gomorrah. So that's her world. That's her family tree. That's her history. Have mercy on me is her first words. Notice that. Not have mercy on my kid, have mercy on me. And I think there's the connection. She knows in her heart of hearts, I somehow, some way have helped prolong this depravity. I was complicit somewhere in this story for the issues that she's having, my child. And I want out. I want to change. I want something different for my daughter. I want something different for myself. And I don't know how else to do it. So I'm going to beg this Jesus that I keep hearing about. Maybe he'll have mercy on me. And then maybe he'll help my daughter. Maybe he'll look past my parents and my grandparents and my great-grandparents and the line and lineage of the city and the town that God would eviscerate. Maybe he'll look past my behaviors and my pagan practices that I was engaged in, because right here and right now I want to follow him. Have mercy on me. Verse 23, Jesus did not answer a word. So his disciples came to him and urged him, send her away, for she keeps crying out after us. There's the compassion of the disciples. They're getting it. Either heal her or just teleport her out of here. Can we move on? Do the wind and the waves thing again. Can we bring in another storm? Just get rid of her. Can we do that? We're too busy being holy, Jesus. Now, what ministry thing are we going to help you with next? See? 24, he answered, I was sent only to the lost sheep of Israel. The woman came and knelt before him. Lord, help me, she said. He replied, it is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs. That's as much of an insult right now as it was 2,000 years ago. Lady, you and your people are not why I'm here. Sorry. Keep in mind the disciples are watching. She's already made a fool of herself publicly. She kept harassing them and asking Jesus to help her. She looks crazy because she won't give up and stop. So finally Jesus stops, lets her know that her and her people are like dogs. She says, yes, it is, Lord. What is she showing? Humility. Jesus is testing false pride, false humility. Really? You really want me to do this? Okay, we'll find out. You know what? I really am not here for you. Bread for the dogs. She says, yes, it is, Lord. She said, even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table. When you come to the rail today, I want you to imagine just crumbs that fall from the master's table. When you taste and see that the Lord is good, and whenever I hand you the wafer today, think of it with that kind of humility. I don't deserve what you're giving me, God, in this moment, but if I can just have the crumbs from your table, from your heavenly table, from your presence, how good it would taste, so much better than the greatest of feasts from a lost and dying world. Just give me the scraps, and your scraps would be better than anything and everything else this world could ever provide for me. Jesus said to her, woman, you have great faith. Your request is granted. And her daughter was healed at that moment. For the disciples, this woman is below them. Do you see what's happened? The first is above them, and they despise the centurion. The next is culturally below them. These are the two people that Jesus goes, wow, look at their faith. Now, what I want you to think about before I sew up the message is I want you to think about what's the area of your life and what's the thing that you need to take before God that is going to require faith. Maybe even faith that you don't even quite have the ability to muster up within yourself, if you're honest. What is that thing? Is it your kids? Some aspect of your life? What is it? Your family? Your greatest fears and worries in some aspect of your world, whatever that is, you know what that is in this room, and it's oftentimes as unique as it took you your path to get to your spot in the pew today. What is that thing that requires great faith? And if you're honest, you walked in here today and you don't have it. Because I want you to know about the faithfulness of God. And I want you to know that these kinds of things happen and God does a profound work. And I will tell you as a pastor, I've told you many times how many people I've buried. I've told you many times some of the dark things that have happened here. And can I tell you something? I have asked God every time because he tells me to. I've asked him to heal people. I've asked him to heal people. I've asked him. And not just in the next life, but this one. And I watched them die. And I had to reconcile that as a pastor. I asked you for this awesome thing, and I believe in you. I believe you'll do it. And you didn't. And I suddenly had to then sit more times than I can remember or recount. I had to sit under the reality that there is a God who has all power, and it's not me. But I'm told to ask and believe and trust. So we had a scenario like that not long ago. Miss Shirley, can you put your hand in the air? Miss Shirley's son already had a G-tube in. He had done all the chemo that could possibly be done. We continue to pray for Stephen, her son. He had cancer in his tongue. He was catching his last breath because his throat was finally closing up. The doctors told Shirley, "We can't do anything else for your son. He has 2 weeks to live. And we're now going to make the preparations for him to die peacefully and comfortably." We believe when we sat down and talked about it that this was early June. Miss Shirley had to get up in the middle of our women's Bible study. She had to go take the call. She was gone for, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes or so. And she was absolutely despondent, just distressed. And I could see the tears in her face. And she asked me, can we pray over her son? The reason we were praying for her son on FaceTime is this was going to be the last time that this was going to happen. So she handed me the phone, and us as a Bible study, with me having video and image of her son on the other side, completely hooked up, already hearing that he'll be dead in 2 weeks or less, we prayed. And we asked Jesus to heal him. Is it because he always will in this life? No. Why? Because he can. Why? He asked me to. He asked me to ask him big things. 15 to 25 minutes later, after we prayed, he was supposed to be moved to a different hospital, life flighted over, to make preparations for the end of life. Inexplicably, the doctor that's supposed to be at the other hospital decided to come over to that hospital less than 30 minutes after our prayer. Takes one more look at his chart, takes a look at him and goes, you know what, we don't need to do this, 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 or this. We're going to move the trach here, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And within 3 weeks, we're watching her son now do PT. Standing upright, calling his mother, telling her that he loves her. Now, we can sit here and we can take that story and we can piece it apart and go, well, maybe this happened or that happened. The bottom line is the man wasn't supposed to be living anymore, and God heard the prayers of a women's Bible study, and God decided to do something profoundly different that left all of the doctors still at this point absolutely baffled. And I share that with you with the consent of Miss Shirley so that you know and are encouraged that when you lift up big things to our God, he does answer. Maybe not always the way that you want. And maybe you feel more like the disciple that's in the storm. Or maybe you feel more like the disciple who's completely lost whenever it seems like that they killed and buried your God. That maybe he can't answer. Maybe there is no hope. But do you see, Jesus rose from the dead not because anyone had enough faith for it to happen. Jesus rose from the dead because he's faithful even when we're faithless. Because Jesus has power even when we're weak. Because Jesus has power over sin, death, and Satan, even whenever we are terrified of all three. It doesn't change the character, the love, the grace, the mercy, the power. And the God that you pray to, and the God that they prayed to 2,000 years ago, he acts and reacts with human beings and the human condition, even to this day. He never stops moving and acting until the day that he comes back from heaven. And in a word, he will eviscerate all evil. And in a word, your tears and your pain will be taken from you. And in a word, he will restore all things. That's what your God can do and will do and does do to this day. Amen. So we're going to pray for her son. We're going to give him the glory and the honor, praise, and we're going to ask him to take cancer completely. And not only that, then I want you to lift up, what's the big thing? What is that thing for you? We all have them. What is that? And place ourselves squarely under the will and the authority and the power of God, okay? Let's pray.